Hello and welcome to the match report, hosted, of course, by Free in Midfield. Cahill, Kojo here. How you doing, sir?
All good, bro. How you doing?
Depends. Right now, I'm doing all right, but in a few hours, I might not be. Let's just put it like that, okay? Let's just put it like that. Look at the smile.
If it doesn't go too well, I'll give you a call and see how you're doing.
Please don't. Just leave me be. I'm just gonna just mope. I won't be moping now because I'm be celebrating because we're gonna get the 3 points. And I haven't believed like that in years. So it's great to be an Arsenal fan right now. Treble Z, how you doing, sir?
I'm all right. I'm not sure about your confidence. Palace away on Monday night is not an easy place to go. Art City. Word to Liverpool. I know our Liverpool fan here. He probably remembers Istanbul. But yeah, let's see what happens, innit? Let's see what happens. But no, I'm good. I'm healthy. Half term for me, or Easter holiday, so I'm chilling. I'm in with the Mandan.
Excellent. See, these Spurs fans, these fans that haven't won anything in years, talking about our darkest moments as fans of football clubs.
All I've got is
right? The
about.
cheek.
That's all I've got. I've just got archives. That's all.
Steve didn't hear a word I said there, but all right then.
You can't beat it, mate. Never work with kids or animals, mate. You got no chance.
How you doing, Steve?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. It's getting squeaky bum time in it now. Just part of the season and tit for tat with City, obviously, and some big games coming up, mate. But you know what? It's better to be in it than not to be in it. And you know, both you and Treble have got something cooking this season. Unfortunately, our mate Kojo has resigned to the usual with Man United, but they're about to name their new manager. So I wish them well with Roy Hodgson at the end of the season. No, in all seriousness, it's the business end of the season, isn't it? So it's good fun, and yeah, it's a bit scary if you're in for the dreaded. I won't say it, the Q word, but I won't say it. But Liverpool are heading down that road, or trying to.
Wow. He doesn't want to say it, but there's confidence there. You can feel it. You can feel the confidence there.
If we can do it, we can do it. Will we do it? I'm not so sure, but we could do it. It's a big ask. Never been done before.
He's coming with the fire straight away. Arteta out already, man. It's like we not even played the game yet.
No idea why. That's
great. Fair play.
Shout out the big up Kojo and Cahill, no relation. Big up the Uncle Ruckus Boondocks reference there.
Fair play. Let's get into that Liverpool game. Of course, you were on top for a good few hours. I believe. When did City kick off? City kicked off. What was it like?
5:30.
5
o'clock. So for a few hours, you were on top of the Premier League, and I don't know why my laptop has done that. Cool. There we go. Goals from Diego Jota and Fabinho. Now, Steve, it seemed like at the very beginning it was going to end up with Liverpool being on top, but Watford did try their best to spoil your fun a bit.
They did, and never let it be said, we love a good international break. We absolutely fall off a cliff at international breaks. We come back, and the thing with Liverpool is they need to be playing 3 games a week. They thrive off the intensity. So when you have to sit and watch, or not, in my case, sit and watch meaningless internationals, it kind of takes us away from what we love, which is the Premier League, and we do find it difficult to readjust. Watford are fighting for their lives. They're well organised. All Roy Hodgson teams are. They offer you a threat because they're quite mobile in terms of up front, quite quick. We were never in danger in that game, but we were never truly comfortable either. And there's a very late penalty to sort of make sure, all things being equal, it was a penalty, to be fair. You can't put your hands on a man in the box like that. It wouldn't look out of place at Twickenham, would it, really, as in terms of a challenge? But at this stage of the season, it's not about football for the purist. It's about getting 3 points and making sure you're staying in the race as long as you can. And it'll take a cock up or a moment's genius from somebody somewhere down the line to separate Liverpool and City. At the moment, it's a toss of a coin. And I'll say now, if we get to the end of the season and we lose the league by a point to City, it's not the first time that's happened. And there's no disgrace for either team to lose the league to the other one, because these two teams are setting standards that we've not seen before in recent years. That the injury-prone season we had aside, 97, 99 points, however many we get this year, is ordinarily good enough to dominate your domestic league, such as the standard of City and Liverpool. It could go either way. It really could. But what we've got to do is, thanks for that comment, lose me thread in the middle of that one. Save that, because if it happens, you want to ram that down his throat for a few weeks. Yeah, if he was watching, I did say I don't think it's likely, but you never know. But we'll see. But we're still in the mix, and that's all I can ask for.
Now we're going to focus on the Premier League trebles. Now I personally believe it's going to come down to whoever takes the 3 points out of the game between Liverpool and Manchester City. That's going to decide the title this season. Who's your favourites for this league title? Give us a reason.
I think City, just because I think it's the game this weekend. This weekend, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think Liverpool have to win it. City just don't have to lose. And I don't know. I don't know. I think if it does come down to that one game, I think City could get a draw and I think still run away with it. Liverpool, for me, out of the two, I know obviously City slipped up a bit at Palace. I just think Liverpool, for me, still sometimes seem that they can rock out a bad draw here and there. I don't expect it, but I just think out of the two teams, if they were going to drop points anywhere else, that might be the one. However, out of all the other teams in the league, I love watching Liverpool play. I actually enjoy watching them play more than City in some respects. I think Jota has been an absolute revelation, and I called it as soon as he got signed. I was like, yeah, this is what they need. He can play anywhere in the front three. He's more dynamic than Firmino in terms of getting goals and good chances, and he just adds an extra layer of threat, which at that end of the table and at the end of those competitions, if you are going to go for, a quad or a treble or whatever, you're going to need to have, that kind of experience or that kind of goal scoring threat coming off the bench. Or starting your games and the opportunity to do things a little bit different. So it's been great to see them pull it back. They were 14 points down. And it just goes to show how great they are and also how great City are. If with a Liverpool team which is this good and has been this good over the past 2, 3, 4 years, they've only got one league title. So it's we're in that kind of prime Man United Arsenal mode. 98 to 2004, where it's just like. It's just either one. You're going to get quality all the way through to the end. As a neutral, it's great to see. Watford can be a sticky game, and it's a 12:30 game just out of the international break. No one wants that slot, do they? And we know what Watford did to them a few years ago when they ended that unbeaten run. So, there's that kind of potential banana skin. But I think once they got the first goal, we all knew what was going to happen, and inevitably they kind of coasted through it. To be honest.
Now Steve was disagreeing massively during that first.
You know what? That was mad, because listening to Treble speak there, I was like, "Yay, no, yay, no." It was like up and down, positive, negative, positive, negative. I don't know what to make of that, to be honest with you. We don't need to go there and win. We've played ourselves into a position where if all bets are even at the end of the day, there's still 1 point in it with 8 or 9 games to go. And I think there's still a twist in the season. Don't get me wrong, it'd be a massive statement to go to the Etihad and win and take the impetus into the remainder of the season. What you tend to find with these sides is whoever gets it right wins well. Both teams have scored 3 or 4 goals against each other frequently. Look, it doesn't. We've played ourselves into such a position. I don't think if we lose the game, that's a disaster. It really is. If we don't lose the game, then we're kind of relying on someone else doing us a favour, and we don't know whether that's possible, whether that's going to happen. We go there to win. They will go there to win, but we've won 10 in a row. So this inconsistency thing that makes us, same as we did at the back end of last season. They give people chances that sometimes misconstrued. There's a lack of consistency from Liverpool, if you like. You don't over 10, 14 points against Manchester City. If you're drawing games, you ought to be winning. So right now we've got the best form in the Premier League, while nobody. We need to continue that, and we need to start continuing that against City. Interesting your points on Jota. I don't think Jota starts against City. I think Firmino does, because Firmino is very clever at interacting with the central defensive midfielders of the opposition. What you don't want to do against City is allow Rodri to step forward and start dictating the game, because as soon as he does it, the back four do it as well, and then suddenly they're camped in your half. So if you've got someone like Bobby Firmino who's capable of just naturally having the ability to interrupt and stop the likes of Rodri playing, and if you look at the goals Liverpool have scored in recent years against City, it's where we win the ball back high up the pitch in areas where we can hurt them. The Salah chip against Ederson, where he's forced to clear it goes straight to Salah, is as a result of a really, really aggressive press. If you take Jota in the front three with Mane and Salah, for instance, Jota doesn't give you the same thing that Bobby does. It makes you more dynamic going forward. I get that, Treble, and I agree. But what Bobby Firmino gives you is the ability to set your traps really high up the pitch, and that is absolutely massive for Liverpool come the weekend.
Can I just ask, do you play Mane, or if you had to pick between Mane and Jota, who do you play? So Firmino and Salah, but on the other side, Jota or Mane?
He'll put the band back together. He'll go with the three tried and trusted up front, purely because when we need to set the traps, those are the three best players we've got at setting those traps, and that will be what this week will be about. Looking at where City use the ball, looking at how City are moving the ball around. The fact that Ruben Diaz might not be fit is a big plus for Liverpool, because Laporte and Stones has picked up an injury for England, so it could be Laporte and Nathan Ake. And all I can say is please be Nathan Ake, because the guy doesn't play. The guy doesn't play, and he's shocking because he doesn't play. Yeah. Certain footballers have to play every week to maintain a level. So it'd be really interesting, but that's the reason why I'm going to die on this hill all week, wherever I speak to, that Bobby Firmino has to start the game because of the disruption for the central defensive midfielder at City.
Now, Coach, I'm going to come to you for your opinion on who's going to win this title. What is that phrase? Gary Neville said it perfectly before. I'm going to repeat what he said, but we all know what he said when it came down to Liverpool or Man City winning the league title all those years ago. What's your take on it? Who's winning?
Look, if City win the game, obviously they go, 4 points clear? 4 points is obviously huge. What I'll say is, both teams can't afford to draw, not this game, but the other games. Because when it came to that title race last time, when City won it by a point, I remember you had Don Maxwell and his brother on the show, and I said to them, the only way you do not win the league, that was Liverpool, because they're Liverpool fans, is if you keep drawing the games that you don't, or you shouldn't draw, if you shouldn't draw. Football's football, isn't it? Because for me, it was the draws that took you away from winning that league. You just turn one of those draws into a win, and you're in front of City, no doubt. So despite City's winning form being so great, I think they won like 14, 15, even maybe even more in a row.
17 it was. 17
games in a row is ridiculous. But saying that one draw, I was saying to them, maybe they should have beat us because they dominated us at Old Trafford and we came away with a point somehow. Those kind of games. So that's where, they draw the line. But I'll say this, if City win that game, I'll say City. If City do not win the game, I think Liverpool will be the team that gets the most points out of the two of them and go on to win the league. Which annoys me because it'll be 2020 in league titles, and that makes me sick. But it's what it is.
It would be, wouldn't it, man? Like that hill that Fergie almost died on. Fucking hell, trying to get one over Liverpool. It took him what? How many years?
27 years, and he
27 years to overhaul us,
and he done it. And then we fumbled the bag straight away.
Like, deep in the fourth quarter, I've got it. Oh no, I haven't.
There you go. he's done it's like a rugby game. He's done all the running. He's gone past everybody. He's gone past everybody like he's Jason Robinson at full speed. And he's gonna pass it to someone on his left. And he's like, "Hey, take it. Just get the try and complete this for us." And he's like, "Yeah." Gotta pass the ball straight to Scott McTominay. You're like, oh, all right, great. There you go. So,
There we go. There we go. We're already bringing him in. We're gonna get to him. Don't worry about it, coach. We'll get to him eventually. But I know you're eager. I know you're eager. But Watford is done, right? They're out. They're gone.
Yeah, I've not had any faith in Watford to stay in the league this season. Them and Norwich were my first two shouts. I shouted Newcastle because obviously I didn't see the
Saudis.
The Saudis incoming. That's why I didn't know. That came out of nowhere.
Don't talk about form. It's the Saudis, bro. The money.
Yeah,
the money
that's what I'm saying. They came out of nowhere. So
yeah.
they got the money. I said, yeah, they're staying up because I knew they were going to find a way to bring in some players and just shop their team a little bit. And they've done that. But yeah, Watford have done what Watford do in the Premier League. They come in. Sometimes they survive for a year. Sometimes they don't. They change managers religiously, no matter what. Same thing this season again, and nothing's going to change. Roy Hodgson's not going to save them. It's what it is. So they'll be back in the Championship as per usual.
Back in the Championship as per usual. And back in the Championship, fingers crossed, everybody in this panel was hoping. Burnley 0, Manchester City 2, Kevin De Bruyne and Ilkay Gundogan with the goals. Now on this podcast, we're not. I'd say me and you, coach, and we're not I wouldn't say we're not fans of KDB, but we're not the biggest fans of KDB. Would you agree with that?
I agree with that.
Yeah, we've had many podcasts and talks about this man and his ability to whip the ball in from the right hand side in about 15 yards of space. Is what it is, man. It is. But Trebles, what a goal from him on the weekend, man. What a fantastic finish.
Yeah, they've. I mean, like Liverpool have the same players that can make something out of nothing. Whether you think he's had a good season or not, those are the kind of players that you want in those kind of games where the pressure's been put on you by Liverpool winning early in the day, and after half an hour the game was done. To be honest, I think the surprising thing is that City didn't win 5-0 as they usually do at Burnley. It's usually 4 or 5 every game. I think they might have just kind of looked at it and went, like, we've got the points. Obviously, they've got Champions League in the midweek. But yeah, KDB can do that, and Gundogan can do it. They've got so many match winners across their team. It's just one of the things about, again, when they're on song, who can really stop them? Only the top teams can really stop them, really. When they're really firing on all cylinders. And whether you like him or not, he is crucial to that. KDB is crucial to that. They're not ready to move on from him. I know there was a bit of talk a couple of years ago that would what role Foden would take. Would Foden be like the new KDB? I think they've kind of modelled. I think Foden's actually been hampered, if I'm honest, by playing in the false 9 position. I don't like it for him, even though he's done well and he's a great player. I actually think I like to see him in other positions, whether it be out wide or further back in the midfield, like we saw for England a couple months ago. But yeah, KDB's got the strings, and if he stays fit, he's going to be crucial over the next 8-9 games or however many they've got left. And if they're going for, well, they are obviously going for the Champions League. That is the holy grail for them, isn't it? They've won everything else in on the domestic front. They want to get that European trophy, and special goals like that will win you tight games. So yeah, they kind of roll on, don't they? They're getting a bit like the Man United of the 90s, actually. Sad to say. They're just a bit inevitable at some point. She's like, okay, Man City won again. Okay, 2-0. Didn't have to get out of second or third gear. Let's see what happens when they come up against Liverpool this week.
I mean, Trebles, you mentioned Foden now. I'm going to come to you, Steve, for this one.
Mm-hmm.
I've rarely heard about Foden this season. Is it down to Pep molding him into what he sees him as? Because before this season, you could see the creativity that Foden possessed and the technical ability that he possessed. But he's not really done that much this season to what we would expect of him to have done by now. Is that a fair point?
Yeah, it is, and it's a tactical point because he shares the false 9 with De Bruyne from time to time, and I don't think it suits either of them because they both want to be picking up the ball from deep when there's a bit of space and they can use their particularly in De Bruyne's case, he can drive at people, and as you say, when people stand and watch him, he's quite capable of having a go from 20 yards and making it count. The Foden thing is a little bit similar to the Grealish thing. There's a world out there that tells you Grealish is a flop this season. He's not really. He's just a smaller cog in a bigger machine now, and £100 million has no bearing on his expectation at all. When he plays, he's effective. When he doesn't play, obviously that's because of the squad they've got. There's no issue with that because they'll bring in Bernardo Silva or Gabriel Jesus, who plays well off the wings for City. I don't think, De Bruyne aside, you can make a case for any of the other lads up front for being absolutely talismanic worldies. You know, De Bruyne really is the go-to guy for them. And I know you guys have had your conversations about him in the past, but he is the guy that seems to come up with the goods when City need him.
Yeah.
The Grealishes, the Bernardo Silvas, the Fodens, the Sterlings, they just do what they do effectively and kind of bizarrely enough stay under the radar. It goes back to what Treble said. It's kind of like, what score did City win today? So it's no big deal when they win 2-0 and Silva gets one and Foden gets one. It's just become the norm, just as it was with all the sides that have been at the top echelons of the league, if you like. And it's like that with Salah and Liverpool now. You know, it's kind of inevitable. Yeah, Foden suffers in the false nine position. You know, if they ever get a proper number 9 and they know how to use him, whether they do or not is a different story, because that seems unpopular and unfashionable now to do that. Then you might see his position change slightly, and it'd be interesting because there'd be 5 players to play in advanced positions. So there would be Mahrez, Grealish, Sterling, De Bruyne, and Foden to fit into a team pattern which includes a number 9, and there's lots of noise about Erling Haaland to City in the summer, which changes their dynamic, and there's no guarantee of success. What they do at the moment works. They create angles and they pass you to death, and that's the issue with City at the minute in terms of teams that aren't prepared to be brave and have a go. But Foden's just been quietly effective, same as Grealish has. I don't buy into this that Grealish is a flop. It's not even a conversation for me.
Not a conversation for Steve. Let's get to a conversation about something you like, Kojo. Defending. Because boy, oh boy. I'm talking about 50. When I'm talking about KDB, I'm talking about 15 yards outside the box. He was getting like 15 yards inside the box for that strike. And to be fair to him, he put it away nicely. But so much space was given and afforded to KDB from that Burnley defense.
Well, this has been Burnley's story this season. They're defending what they were known for. You know, the Tarkowskis, the Ben Mees, the solidness, being dominant in the air. That they've lost all of that this season. Looks like they've lost their fundamentals. Was it against Spurs this season where Tarkowski sort of blocked a cross? I can't remember if it was Spurs. It might be Spurs. He sort of blocked a cross, but he just fell to his opposition and he just sort of gave up. Like he took a touch and he just went in front of the guy and he just sort of like, yeah, I can't bother to get this. And the guy just put it back in the net. I remember, and it might not be Spurs, but I'll try to remember. But it's just all of that has been happening this season. There's been seems like Tarkowski is sort of signed out because he's been linked to a transfer for a long time. And I feel like you probably feel he's got another level. Ben Mee, all these guys, Loughton, I feel like their time in the Premier League is starting to come to an end. They're not the kind of players that you want to go further with anymore. They can't take you any further than they did. I think they had one great year when they obviously qualified for European football. But after that, they've gone back to type. Weghorst looked like it was going to be a good signing overall because you did sort of like a type for type-ish sort of signing. You lose Woods, you bring in another tall striker, someone that's dominant in the air, but it's not worked either. Ashley Barnes has not been the same since an injury, and he hasn't come back, he hasn't recovered. Jerry Rodriguez hasn't shown form, and he's someone that's had many relegations as well of West Brom, so he's not the kind of person that you look to keep you up, you know. And Dwight McNeil's star has pretty much fallen. You know, he was someone that they looked at as maybe he's pure left-footed, he's very direct. You know, they're not the most promising team, but he looked like a promising player that maybe could go somewhere else and maybe do something else. His stock has dropped this season as well. So you just see that's a whole collective of players, key players that have not performed. Looks like Sean Dyche has sort of run out of ideas a little bit as well. I think I was even saying earlier this season that this will probably be his last season at Burnley anyway. Whether that's for a new club or just leaving, I think he has to go. It's a bit like Chris Wilder's situation at Sheffield United. You've done what you can with them. Might be time to move on and just look for the next chapter. whether that's lower or higher than Burnley, that's your call. But yeah, the defending was weirdly enough what I've come to expect from Burnley, which is a jolting because they are a side that's been renowned for their defending, no matter the league position. So yeah, time's running up on them, and quite frankly, their relegation is looking, unless Everton don't win any of their games in hand, it looks like it's game over for them as well.
And team that people may have thought would have been game over for, turns out not so much. They still got life in them. Chelsea won, Brentford 4. Now let's all laugh at Chelsea here because they got absolutely smacked up at home by Brentford, and Brentford were fantastic on the night as well, especially in the second half. I mean, Rudiger was not a dead game at the very beginning, but Rudiger in the 48th minute scored an absolute weldy from. I don't think he expected it himself with that celebration. Then Janlet got scored 2, Eriksson as well, and Johan Wissa rounded up with a 4th. Trebles. Nobody saw this one coming, right?
No, we did. Brentford have given me 2 of my favourite results this year. I don't know if you know the other one, Teo. Anyway, you know what? Ivan Toney is crucial to how Brentford play. Him and is it Bremo up top?
And
they have a really good connection, and they make up for a lot of deficiencies. They've got a lot of hard workers in the team. You know, it's almost like Coach was talking about Burnley. Weghorst would be a great signing if he had one more creative player in that Burnley team. But because it's all Dwight McNeil, and then Aaron Lennon's not going to do much, is he? The rest of the midfield is really basic. They can't get the best out of him, and he gets really isolated for the most part. So you flip it to Brentford, who they have just a few people here and there who can just make things work. But they dropped off for a few months because Tony was injured, and I think Tony doesn't want to necessarily be there long term. But once he gets on the pitch, he gets up for those kind of games. He's like, all right, Chelsea, let's see what they've got. And they've got a lot of players that do that. He's like, you know what, they got that kind of plucky underdog thing that remember when Norwich were like playing very well against everyone. They weren't winning, but like in the big games, that first game against City, I think a couple of years ago, it's like, oh wow, Norwich, rubbish, but like they look like they were up for it. Brentford have that, but there's a bit more quality, and Chelsea, I don't know. I think they might have clocked out for the Premier League. I think they've gone third is probably wrapped up as long as they win enough games. They don't need to. They're not going to win the title. They're in a situation now where they can just focus on the Champions League and see if they can go back to back on that. They have problems in their team. I know Spurs weren't able to exploit them in the month of January when we played them every 10 days or whatever. But if you put a good hard working side together, you can punish them. We saw that last year. Who was it? They drew 3-3 with, was it West Brom? When West Brom went 3-0 up half time, and obviously they fell apart. But you can score goals against them. You can pick them apart. If you're a bit plucky and got a bit of adventure. And it's always nice to see Christian Eriksen score against Chelsea. I think the last time we actually beat them in the league, that Easter Sunday game a few years ago, Eriksen got us back on the ball there with an absolute amazing worldie goal. Good to see him playing football. Not sure I want him back at the Lane. A lot of people have been talking about that. I think I'm okay, but he's playing football. He's healthy. God willing, nothing else happens to him. And he's scoring goals against Chelsea. And as a Spurs fan, we love to see it.
Now, Steve, this is the type of game that if Roman Abramovich wasn't being allegedly poisoned, he would look at he'd be looking at Thomas Tuchel, because if we take everything into account for this season, third and out of the title race by January was not part of the cards. Yes, they're still in the Champions League, but I don't think they are going to win it this year. So this is, by all regards, this has been a disastrous season for Chelsea, even though they are third.
Yeah, it has. And unfortunately, the circumstances they find themselves in may well turn out to be Thomas Tuchel's saving grace, because you've got something you can turn to and say, well, because, and you can look at the situation the club find themselves in. Trebles is right. You can get at them. They played a back four on the weekend, and it went so badly wrong that Thiago Silva's wife took to social media to dig out the haters. You're in trouble
That
when your
was
missus is.
hilarious.
Yeah,
That was
you're in
hilarious.
trouble when your missus is fighting your fights for you, aren't you? Really, you're in a dangerous position there. So, it is a bad season. You're right. To that was the next step for them, wasn't it? To challenge City. We didn't know Liverpool would challenge. Liverpool fans thought we'd challenge, but everyone else had written us off because of what happened the year before. And we were always saying, once we get everybody back, we'll get that back again. But they haven't sort of emerged as a third major force. They threatened to for the first third of the season, if you like. Their issues are they go spend big money on. They've got a £97 million lump up top, and they don't know what to do with him. Whilst the rest of the Premier League just laugh at them for that reason. We said before, you can't. I've said this on this pod before. You can't call Grealish a flop, but you can call Lukaku a flop. But you can also call the tactics that allow you to play Lukaku a flop as well, because they've not really catered for the man's skills. They're a more dangerous side when he's not playing, and that's an indictment on tactically, and it's also an indictment on why you go and spend £97 million on a player you think can change the world and make you Premier League champions, and he fails to turn up. Given their circumstances, he may well not be there next year. And you're right, the season for Chelsea, if they go on and go back to back in the Champions League, will paper over the cracks, and everyone will be like, wow, Chelsea are double European champions and they are great. But the reality is, you shouldn't be getting turned over 4-1 at home by Brentford after going in front and then seemingly just switching off. And, they've got issues. The club's got things to deal with. But this is, as a player, that those things shouldn't affect you. Because at the end of the day, you're still getting paid, which they are. They're still training with the coach. They're still doing the tactical stuff. There still is a tight unit that wants to go on and win games and ultimately trophies. You can't use the political issues within the club as a reason to not perform at home against Brentford. That nobody would have predicted that as a scoreline. So there are bigger issues there, and in a different year, Tuchel probably loses his job. But we spoke about this the last time I was on. Chelsea's business model is going to change drastically, and the sort of hangman's noose type of thing may not be a factor at Chelsea for much longer. It was a constant that every manager that went to Chelsea would inevitably get sacked. Even if you won the Champions League, you could still lose your job. That probably will change now. So Tuchel may get some grace from that, but Chelsea will be looking down now, because you guys, Cahill and Trebles, your teams are looking up. You've got to be looking up. You've got to be looking at them saying, if Arsenal win both their games and they get to within three or 4 points of Chelsea, a couple more results like that, suddenly Chelsea are not safe in third place. We saw this last season. Chelsea had sort of third place nailed on, and Liverpool took it off them. So it's not the first time we've seen this. It'll be an interesting end to the season, but you're quite right, mate. If this was normal business at Chelsea, he'd be in a bit of trouble after that performance.
I mean, the question to you, Kojo, is: are Chelsea in trouble of dropping out the Champions League?
Yeah,
I think it is a possibility.
They are. Look, so they've got one game in hand on Spurs, I believe. I think.
Arsenal. Yeah. And Chelsea have a game in hand on Spurs.
On Spurs, yeah. So look, the issue with Chelsea is there's a lot of complacency starting to get into their game. Now, before I say this, disclaimer: I still think he's a brilliant player. Don't come for me. I'm not saying he's now trash. You know how football people are these days. Kante's performance against Brentford kind of worried me, and it's because. And firstly, I'm going to get onto Loftus-Cheek because.
Do you need to at this point?
It's because many a time we've said that the guy's just not good enough, and it's not a case of trying to belittle him or anything. He's just not of the quality that Chelsea need in their midfield, and he was run ragged by not only Eriksen, by all of them. But Kante, it kind of goes back to the point I made about when Man United years back beat Chelsea 4-0 in the first league game of the season. I think Frank Lampard's first game as Chelsea manager.
Oh yeah.
And Kante was left in one-on-one situations twice in that game, or 3 times, and it went from 1-0 to 4-0 very, very quickly. The guy is an excellent chaser of the ball, but when you live in a one-on-one situation, or basically sort of like in the last 2 or 3 man situation, where someone has to commit to one place, and you have to know whether to go to the ball or go to the man, or track your other man. Sorry, he doesn't really excel in that for me. That's my opinion on him. And this game, that came to the fore again. So for Eriksen's goal, you can see that it's him. I believe it's Rudiger, and I can't remember the other person. It might have been Alonso. And he sort of got Eriksen in his, he's kind of running with Eriksen, and he suddenly just starts drifting out to the wing to go after the ball. And I'm like, you're leaving Eriksen by himself. Eriksen's now suddenly got a ton of space in the middle, so you find him with a simple pass, and obviously the finish was there. Fantastic. And then the third goal, they're playing the ball again down that left side as well, which is something you could probably point down as an issue. I can't remember if it was Aspi or Reece James that started on that side. But again, Yano is making a run with him, and he's running with him, and then he suddenly stops. He ball watches. And for me, it's like, if your defenders are occupied with other players, you have to track your man to the end, because you're good at that. But he didn't do it in this game as well. And I've noticed that about him as a sort of like tracking the man late. When it comes to chasing the ball and getting at someone, he's the best at it, no doubt. But for me, when it comes to that last 2 or 3 defenders kind of thing, he seems to struggle in that aspect. And I think Tuchel kind of agreed, because he took him off 5 minutes after that third goal for Lukaku. And for me, he wasn't even the worst player on that, or worst midfielder on that pitch. Loftus-Cheek was. So for me, if he's saying that, or he's doing that, I feel like he's thinking, well, you struggled bad in that game, that I just need to take you out and see if Lukaku can come on the pitch, and bring us back into the game. But yeah, to answer your question as well, they are looking like they are going to struggle to get this. I think they are not comfortable. They cannot focus on the Champions League just yet, only because third is not secure, in my opinion. And they are the most likely right now out of those 3 London teams to drop points. Arsenal are getting results, Spurs are finding results, and Chelsea keep dropping points. This 4-1 wasn't like a unlucky Chelsea situation where Brentford had 4 shots and somehow they all went in. They were dominated from the beginning. They weren't the better side in this game. Rudiger scored a worldie, and immediately Brentford just came back into the game and took over the whole situation. It's not good enough. Whether Tuchel stays or not, I don't know. But that's a bad result. And if they are not careful, the North London derby at the end of the season might end up being a game that decides 3rd and 4th, depending on who wins rather than who finishes in the top 4.
I mean, let's talk about parallels.
I would love that.
Oh yeah.
Let's talk about parallels here. 2 German coaches, both with impressive CVs, coming to top clubs in England and disappointing fans. Manchester United 1, Leicester 1. I'm glad you preempted me there. I'm very glad you preempted me.
I knew when you were going straight away.
I need to interject there, right? And I'm going to pull you up very slightly, okay? I don't think the rest of the footballing world saw Ralph Rangnick as a top coach. They saw him as a director of football in a smaller league. Thomas Tuchel came with a much better resume and a much bigger reputation than Rangnick, and I think Rangnick's a mistake, personally speaking.
He's just firing shots already, man. It's wonderful to see. It is wonderful to see. There we go, man. Shooting from the hip. But Fred saved you, Kojo. He saved you. Kelechi Iheanacho scored on the 63rd minute, and 3 minutes later, like a typical FM game, Fred scores. And boy, the interesting. There's a lot of interesting talking points here. So we're going to start with you, Kojo. How disappointing was this one?
Oh, you know what? It's every time Man United fans see their team lose or draw a game, it's this person's the problem or this person's the problem. And more so than not, this season has been Ronaldo. So when Ronaldo wasn't starting or wasn't even in the squad, I was waiting for the excuses in this game, because I told Alex earlier in the day that we're going to draw this game. We're not winning. And not the whole we drew. The reason I said that is because when I looked at the lineup, we have a bunch of players on that pitch who, barring 1 or 2, do not have the urge to make forward passes. And then on top of that, you have 3 or 4 players that don't make the correct type of runs to collect passes. And when they do once or twice, it tends to happen that the wrong player is in possession of the ball to find the player. It's very repetitive saying these names over and over. McTominay, Fred. But McTominay kind of epitomized why I don't want him in the starting 11 of Man United and would rather see him in just like cup games, Carabao FA Cup for Man United. It's because the few times that Man United players actually made runs, your Elangas or your Brunos, he was passing the ball out wide. And when I say out wide, not to his teammate, to the fans. They were going out of touch. And it's one of those ones where it's like, I can forgive. I always say this. I can forgive if you try to attempt a pass and it doesn't come off. Because, you're trying to make something happen. When your team are making runs or to go forward and trying to help you create a chance, you have to try and find these players. And if you can't find them, it is what it is. But he gave it a go. He kicked the ball out wide. Leicester took a throw. We got possession back very quickly. He got the ball on the right side. And what did he do? He kicked it towards the fans again. And this is kind of repetitive with Man United. And then Fred scored. Absolutely. He saves Man United. He got Man United a point. But his 90-minute performance was not good enough. Again, Bruno Fernandes, inefficient going forward. His shooting
invisible, man. Invisible.
He had 2 chances to try and hit the ball well, and he just hit it poorly, or it looked like he didn't know what to do with the ball.
Yeah, they had a good one-on-one chance.
He scuffed it. He hit his studs rather than, getting a good sort of foot on the ball. Elanga, bless his soul, he's a striker, been brought up as a striker, and was playing right wing. So there you go. Ronaldo's out. Martial's not in the club. Rashford's on the bench. But your only striker left starts on the right wing. That's Man United. And it looked like Pogba and Fernandes were the forwards. It's comical. It's comical. And that's why I kind of get I definitely get what Steve is making and talking about in terms of Rangnick, because Usman invited me on his show to talk about Rangnick. And I spoke about the football that he played with Schalke. He played with Leipzig, the style of football. But then I said to him, number one, Man United can't play that kind of football because they haven't got the players to apply that kind of football that you saw with your Schalkers and your, Secondly, in the Bundesliga, there's a lot more space where both teams are high pressed and there's going to be just one-on-one opportunities everywhere. So if you can play your way through that very quickly, you'll create many chances many a times in those leagues. And then thirdly, I made the Bielsa point. These are guys that have a wonderful reputation of their philosophy, not of winning things. And that's a big issue, because whether he's temporary or whether he's long-term, if you are supposed to be big Man United and your idea is we always want to compete for trophies, you need to bring someone with pedigree. It's the same issue I had when we brought in Moyes. I was like, Moyes done a wonderful job at Everton. Didn't win anything. You can say, yeah, but it's Everton. Portsmouth won 2 FA Cups in the 2000s. So you can compete for things. There's a way to win things and win competitions, And then we brought in Van Gaal. Good history, won things. But again, Man United, board, all that stuff. He said it earlier this year as well. Man United are a commercial club, not a football club. And then Mourinho, he got you 2 trophies, got you second place next year. And then when you really want to just bring in defenders just to shore up a little bit, make sure United are a lot more compact, a lot more safe on the ball as well as off the ball, they didn't back him and you go forward. And you replace that with someone who won things at Mulder, and then you bring in someone who's not won much whatsoever, but because he plays a good style of football, you think it's going to work. And now he's supposed to be a consultant next year, and he's really saying he doesn't really know what's going to happen next year. This is why it's comical at the club, and this is why you don't see any improvement on the pitch, because if this kind of thing happens, whether it's Ten Hag or Pochettino, I don't care who it is, Man United are going to produce the same kind of performances because they have the same caliber of players, and they're not trusted to replace good players that they lose with better ones or adequate replacements enough anyway. This performance, Leicester deserved the 3 points, in my humble opinion. They didn't get it. That's unfortunate for them. They were unlucky with the goal that was disallowed by Maddison's goal.
I think so too.
Very unlucky. But that is Man United's luck. See, people don't want to count Man United out of the top 4 race because they've got the quality of the players. They got the Brunos, your Pogba's, Ronaldo. You mentioned all these names, and I've been saying, you say all these names, and gradually the thoughts of what Man United can do gradually drop every year. It's like, oh, title race, top four. Top four. Maybe Europa League. Oh, yeah, they got Ronaldo, Sancho, and Varane. They should go for the title. Maybe they got top four, maybe Europa League. It's the same old. So look, Leicester deserved the 3 points. The defending was still poor. Man United are just, at this point, they're a club where I said to you last week, I wouldn't be surprised if they finished in a UEFA Conference League spot next season. I told you that.
Wow.
And I mean that because we say wow, but if we're looking at the evidence right now, I said about Chelsea, Arsenal and Spurs are more likely to get more points than Chelsea. West Ham are also looking more likely to get more points than Man United.
You say wow because it absolutely magnifies where Manchester United are right now in terms of how far off it they are. Not because it's totally unexpected, because I've said to you guys before, they need to stop saying we're Man United. You have a right to say that, and at the moment, that's not the case.
Absolutely, and I completely agree. I've always tried to be a bit humble with my club after Cyrus Ferguson left because I was kind of scared. I can't lie. As soon as I saw David Moyes come through the door, I was like, damn. I don't know if I can have the same sort of arrogance that I had growing up. But look, it's a harsh lesson that United fans need to learn. I think Tony Coyte said last week perfectly well, 2 weeks ago rather, perfectly well. Football goes around in circles. You know, everyone has their moment, and then you drop off, and then someone else takes their spot back. Or there's a new kid on the block that shows you levels. Man United had their time, but if they want to get back, they've got the facilities, they've got the money. They just need to use the bloody common sense and build things slowly and take their time. I usually give managers 3 years to build their team. If I'm being honest, knowing how Man United the board move and our history with not selling players consistently or well, even is the word. Whether it's Ten Hag or Pochettino, they may need 4 or 5, and I mean that. I mean that because people always say, "Oh yeah, Man United will spend, and this team will fall back." I'm like, well, Arsenal will spend. Oh, Spurs might fall back. Spurs might spend. Chelsea will definitely.
Kojo, I think if it's Poch, 3 years' time, we're having the same conversation. Because whether Spurs backed him or not after his exploits getting into the Champions League final, he should have had enough about him to say, I did that with the side I've got. I can replicate that this year with the same side I've got because this is about me, not about the personnel. I delivered the strategy and the game plan. What he did do was spend 4 months crying to the press how he didn't have money to spend and was he actually the coach? I don't think Pochettino's got the minerals to take on a job like Manchester United and turn Manchester United into what Manchester United fans would like to see them become. And Ten Hag really is an unknown quantity at that level with that much pressure.
I think before I shut up, I think my rebuttal, or not rebuttal, but what I'll say to that is with Pochettino, I think I don't know how Treble will feel about this. When they finished second, he was immediately talking about sort of like a rebuild. I think he saw the writing on the wall for a couple of the players in the team. And yes, he has his faults. Even though he got into the Champions League final, the league form was poor. He looked like he ran out of ideas. His selections were very, very odd. At times, his tactical decisions were scary to watch and witness either as a neutral or if you're a Spurs fan. But he kind of saw the writing.
Wonderful to watch, to be honest.
Oh, not for you, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think he kind of saw the writing on the wall at Spurs. I think he kind of saw a lot of players were coming to the end. Then Benny was picking up a lot of injuries, as was Wanyama, so they needed adequate replacements in the middle. Vertonghen and what's his name? Alderweireld had a wonderful partnership, but there was Kyle Walker, a key member of that defense. And Trippier was good going forward, but he didn't possess the same sort of defensive and offensive qualities that Kyle Walker possessed.
I mean, the pace.
Oh yeah, pace is pace is the main thing.
The defensive and offensive qualities, bro. Just talk about the pace, man.
I'm talking about the recovery speed. You know what I'm talking about, man.
Yes, man. Wait to recovery speed, bro.
This is a really good juncture for me to remind you when we did our teams in that pod we did, and I picked Kyle Walker because of his recovery pace. That cost me the crown on the night. I might add. You two are bigging it up. You two are actually giving him flowers for it.
I'm not. Absolutely not.
I'm just saying it worked for Tottenham because they had good protection in the middle. You know, that's what I'm saying. But anyway, and obviously it's PSG. Look, I'm not going to be brutally honest. I do not judge managers much on PSG because PSG is one hell of a joke of a club, in my opinion. That's just me. Tuchel, I didn't put any sort of opinion on him off that run at PSG. Quite frankly, I think that club's a joke. I don't care who they sign. I think they're an absolute joke of a club. And with Ten Hag, I keep making this point to Man United fans. You romanticize about his football the same way you romanticized about Rangnick's football. And where has that got your club? That's number one. Number two, there's this idea just because he's apparently demanded that he manages most of the transfers and all that. What is the guarantee that the club's going to allow him to do that? Because Mourinho came and said, the club told me they will allow me to go and get players after that season where they finished second, and they gave him league run. So there's no guarantees there either. He was a much more of a proven winner than Erik ten Hag. And thirdly, they highlight a lot more of PSG's losses with Pochettino because it's PSG. You got Neymar, Messi, Ronaldo. I'm like, well, yeah. No one's going to care when Ajax lose 2-1 to go ahead Eagles because no one here really watches Eredivisie. You watch Ajax in the Champions League, and that's what you romanticize about Ajax. So I can't come and tell you that Ten Hag is the wrong appointment, but I can't tell you he absolutely is going to be the right appointment because I don't fall in love with football that is pretty. I fall in love with winning football. That's what I want to see. Pep's football works for him. He wins. Klopp, he wins. Arteta is now trying to build something at Arsenal. Now he's getting results. He's winning games and he's getting results. Conte, his football in the past has won many titles for him. He's good. Man United haven't got that right now. So, yeah, I don't know. I actually don't know who the perfect manager would be for this team. All I do know is whoever it is, like I said, 4 or 5 years because this squad needs a whole overhaul. I've said it once and I'll say it again. 13 players are needed. The rest of them are hopefully the youth that we can develop to come up and join the squad and make it 25. Until then, I don't have faith in a lot of these players.
I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty around Manchester United trebles, whether it's Ten Hag or Pochettino. But Rangnick, let's talk about him. Let's focus on him. Is he playing himself out of that position as consultant?
No, I think he's probably already made certain decisions about what the summer's going to look like, where they'll have to kind of keep him at least for a year or two. Look at the Fernandes deal. No one signs off on a deal like that for a club that's in uncertain waters with, Pogba looking to leave. Is Ronaldo going to stick around if they're not playing on Tuesdays and Wednesdays? We don't know. They've got all sorts of problems with the team. Maguire is, getting a bit, fire under his arse, that kind of thing. There's so many issues, and then you're signing a brand new deal for Bruno Fernandes. I think that's Rangnick all over, and there's him going, look, whatever happens next, I've got my stamp on the next 3-4 years of this team by signing, this major contract for a major player in the team. And whether you rate him as a player or not, he's in there, and he's one of the more recognizable names on the team sheet. I think, if Man United were smart, they would have gone straight and put him in a consultant role earlier. I think this whole interim thing is weird for a dressing room which has already proved itself to be toxic at times. Like, I've never seen a dressing room have more leaks. They have more leaks than the Titanic. Like, it's crazy. Like, every other week, it's usually Luke Shaw, Rashford, Fernandes, and then Pogba when he goes links up with the French man, right? There's always a story. And then you give that group of players, you give them a 6 month or whatever it was, 8 month kind of run. Like, I think, again, it goes back to, I think Kojo's mentioned this, not only just today, but in previous times when we've spoken. Man United really think they are still Man United. Like, humble yourself. Like, you need to start again. And, whether it is Ten Hag or Poch, I agree with what has been said about Poch. I rate him, but I don't adore him the way a lot of Spurs fans do. I saw some obvious failings. I'm nowhere near as good a coach on that level at all, but just on a basic level, there were some really interesting moments in those 5-6 years that we had him. For a team of that quality to not win anything, not even a Carabao Cup, like nothing. It just got, for me, his lack of respect for the domestic trophies, and he's always like this big thing. Okay, big man, you get to the Champions League final, fix it. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you've starved us of all those trophies that we could have maybe nicked, maybe a FA Cup here or whatever. Obviously, we're thinking idealistically. I just think it'll be interesting if Man United get him, because he's very much like, I want to win at the top. Man United are a few years away from getting back to title and Champions League winning. So you're bringing in a guy who, that's all he knows. Do you know what I mean? So that'll be interesting as an experiment. But yeah, Ragnick, I think he's got that position solidified for the next couple of years because of that kind of deal. There's no one else out there that they could probably go and get, really. You know, they tied their fortunes to him, and whoever he picks, you know, we'll see what happens. But there's a very distinct, you know, reality that they could bring in Ten Hag to coach United in the Conference League, which would be absolutely stunning to watch. You know, that's just, you know, it's ridiculous. So we'll see, but they do need to humble themselves a bit. And I think Leicester, you know, you said at the beginning that Fred saved them. I don't think Fred saved them. I think Varane and his outstretched leg saved them, because that goal for me is a close call. If that happens up higher up the pitch and in the game, I don't think it gets turned around. I think it's because on the edge of the box, that foul. It was touch and go. But did you see what Maguire was doing at the same time? Maguire was like, you know, doing a foxtrot shuffle, you know, behind it. It was symptomatic of where United are at the moment. And yeah, Maddison, obviously, you know, you could have won it for Leicester. And Leicester, you know, they're in flux. They're a bit of a weird kind of team. Can they go win Europa? I don't see it, but they could strike, you know, lucky in a bit. But yeah, United, we've seen this before. They go 1-0 up, or you know, they draw a lot of games, don't they? So yeah, it's a bit like business as usual, really.
I mean, you say there's nobody available, but I think in a few months' time, Steve, that Lampard might be available for the Manchester United job. Because boy,
I'll do that.
Everton. What do you mean do what, bro? Do what? He's already managed Chelsea. He's managed a big side. He can take on Manchester United and trouble.
Get out of here.
It's from Gucci Manchester United to the big deal. Come on now, Kojo. Come on now. West Ham 2, Everton 1. Goals, and I mean goals, from Aaron Questle and Jared Bowen and Mason Holgate. I mean, Steve, just to get the negative out the way, Everton. I mean, I imagine you're lapping this up, because they have been absolutely terrible this season.
They have, and for the first time in my life, I'm looking at Burnley thinking, please don't go down. I genuinely think it's a 2-horse race between them and Everton for who goes down the trapdoor with the other two. Everton just don't look like they've got a win in them. They're making shocking defensive mistakes at the moment. They're losing a player every game for disciplinary reasons.
3 games in a row right now.
Yeah. Listen, Frank Lampard was an amazing footballer, but no, he's not an amazing manager. And I genuinely would worry that... I'm not worried. If I was an Everton fan, I'd be worried. Second longest run in the Premier League, or if not the longest run in top flight football, alongside your team, Arsenal, and it's under massive threat. It really is. I think Burnley potentially have got a win somewhere in their locker because of the way that they play, because of the physicality they play with. I think Everton have taken like 6 points in 60 or something crazy like that. Yeah,
Burnley, Everton.
They are in all kinds of bother, and the top teams winning becomes a habit for the top teams, and the teams that go down the trapdoor losing becomes a habit. And right now, Everton have got that habit. It's just a case of, are Burnley any better or any worse than Everton? That's what it'll come down to. Next season, Frank Lampard is not the answer. I genuinely don't see Frank Lampard being the solution for Everton. He's actually done worse than the manager he replaced in terms of the results.
Yeah, 7 out of 10 defeats, right, Kojo?
Yes, yeah. He's lost 7 out of his 10 games.
And again, you know, he's been put there on reputation. If you actually look at what he did at Chelsea, the euphoria of a returning legend that got them through the first season. It's Frank Lampard, right? We pull out our finger and we do a bit for him because he's a legend of the football club. It's Big Frank, and that will happen at any club.
Yeah.
It would happen with Gerrard if he came to Liverpool, but then second season we find out whether he's got the ability, and then really from that moment on, it was a downward trajectory for Lampard at Chelsea, and ultimately cost him his job. And then he goes and takes a job at a club where all of his skills and all of the things that he's done really not fitting for what Everton needed at that time. They probably would have been better going back to Sam Allardyce and getting him in for a second stint to keep them in the league, because no disrespect to Frank Lampard, this is not what he would tell you his management's about. The reality is we don't know what his management's about because of the circumstances we saw at Chelsea with the transfer embargo and that sort of siege mentality that we'll prove people wrong. That comes into play as well. But Everton seriously could end up in the Championship next year. And if they do, they're not coming back first year of asking. They're really not. Because they've got players that... Could you imagine Richarlison being told it's Huddersfield away on Saturday? He'd be like, I'm not getting up for that. I'm not getting motivated for that. They've not got the right players, the right mindset, and there's the stories that they're going to let Allen leave in the summer, although he's got time left on his contract. He's not happy. They're in a really precarious position, only because of COVID accountability adjustments you're allowed to do on your financial records. Are they not finding themselves being docked points because they've reduced their deficit by a half because of the accountable allowances you're allowed to do for COVID. So, by and large, the business model, what you spend, what you recruit, who you bring in as your manager, what you're doing with your massive new stadium for the Championship, brilliant. It's a mess. It's an absolute mess, and they're my favourites to go down, not Burnley.
I mean, Treble, let's go off that point. I mean, if they do go down, I mean, Steve mentioned Richarlison, but there are a whole bunch of players there which won't even go into the Championship. I'm pretty sure they'll all be looking to leave. I mean, Richarlison will be looking to leave. Iwobi will be looking to leave. Calvert-Lewin, who's already looking to leave, he's doing photo shoots whilst he's not been in form for the past 6 months or something like that, or the entire season. It's a real mess there, and if they do go down, like Steve said, they're not coming back up, are they?
No. The Championship is that league, isn't it? That it's such a weird competitive league, and it is competitive. Let's call it what it is. It's dog eat dog. It's you have to have something about you, and I think Everton have really capitulated. Over the past 6 months, let's say. You can put it down to the managers. You can put it down to people being on big wages, maybe expecting a project. They had Ancelotti at one point, didn't they?
Yeah.
But you look at, I'm just looking for their team. Decore, he's not sticking around. Richarlison, Calvert-Lewin. Oh, imagine Pickford. Pickford could be going to the World Cup as a Championship player. It's a really weird one. They've got to start with their youth. I think they've got to trust maybe some of the younger players. Gordon, I actually like the look of Gordon. He's a good player. Obviously Damari Gray. I don't mind if he wants to come and help us out with our squad depth. I wouldn't say no. I've liked him for a number of years. I don't think he's necessarily a classically top 4 player, but he is a player that you can say you on one wing, maybe a Bergwijn on the other wing, League Cup away to Huddersfield, let's say. So it's interesting. They're going to have to blow the thing up. Their owners have been really, wild with their spending for a project which I don't understand what anyone was really seeing. Like they weren't like a top 5, top 6 team. Even if it was West Ham, West Ham have found a way. West Ham really remind me of Pochettino's Spurs side. They've got a system. They know how they can beat the big teams at home. Under Pochettino, we started beating the Arsenal, started beating Man United, we started beating Man City. West Ham have found a way to beat bigger teams at home and kind of go on a 8 to 10 game unbeaten run. Not necessarily winning every game, but unbeaten. And they all believe in each other. They're not superstars in that sense, but they've got a lot of talent. They don't have a world-class player like a Harry Kane or whatnot, but they've got the Bowens, they've got the Rice. Yarmolenko off the bench. And they're doing what they need to do to solidify and move up. If their owners now turn around and said, right, here's a £200 million war chest, go and solidify us in the top 6 conversation, you'd understand. But Everton were doing this from like 8th and 9th, thinking, bruv, like, humble yourself again. Just know where you're at. Build, kind of. I think they kind of probably got hoodwinked by the Leicester situation. Leicester are able to go from 0 to hero.
Yeah.
All it needs is just collection of talented players who are playing for the manager. Listen, Leicester. There's a reason why Leicester will appear on things you didn't think will ever happen in 20 years' time. There was that kind of win when they won the league. So yeah, I think they will go down. Next game for Everton is Burnley. I think it's at Burnley. So that is what we call a traditional 6-pointer, isn't it? That's a big game. Burnley, Everton at Burnley. I think Burnley win that. And I think it might be comfortable. I think once the first or second goal goes in for Burnley, I think Everton just turn over and get spanked, really. They're that kind of team. They don't really have the minerals. So yeah, West Ham doing what West Ham do. They're winning the odd, some good games here and there. They're one of those teams that I hate. West Ham can be a bit of a bogey team for Spurs over the past few years. We all know about the 3-3 They've knocked us out a couple of cup competitions over the years under Pochettino. So yeah, West Ham getting that win. I think West Ham will be looking at solidifying the European spot. Can they win the Europa? I would hate if they did. But they're one of those teams that can go on a little magical run. That their fans will be singing about for the rest of their lives. So we'll see. We'll see.
So I think you're right. Just before you go to Kojo, West Ham will go to the Europa League final. Frank Lampard will go to question the sport.
Oh.
That's the last thing I was expecting. Whoa.
He's a question of the sport,
Oh my goodness.
We feel tough though. Was it Matt Dawson? Rotted, bro. All right then, Kojo. We're gonna have to talk about that Cresswell free kick. It was straight out the top drawer, man. Fantastic. Whose free kick was better, Ward-Prowse's or Cresswell's?
Ward-Prowse.
You say Ward-Prowse? It's the way he whips it. It's beautiful, isn't it? But
it's just a thing of beauty.
Cresswell's one was really good though as well. It's because he got like a little late dip on it as well, and it's one of those almost in the corner kind of things as well. Ward-Prowse has pretty much been winning free kick competitions all the time, so I'm going to give one to Cresswell because at this point, Ward-Prowse just does it for fun. No, look, it was a beautiful free kick. He hardly scores them, but when he scores them good. And this one was top draw. And he kind of set the tone for the rest of the game as well. And that's what West Ham need. They need goals from everywhere because Antonio's goals have certainly dried up big time. So if Cresswell can hit a few free kicks in there, then that would be lovely for them. It was a beautiful free kick and a well-deserved win as well. Just quickly on Everton. Michael Keane and Yerry Mina are championship defenders.
Yeah, they'll stick around.
Yeah, that pretty much that just sounds to me. That's my point. Pretty much.
They should sign Ake as well to play next to them.
Well, yeah, Ake as well soon come. Hopefully as well. Maguire anyway. Yeah, no, look, Kel, me, you have. I think did he move from we were doing the podcast when he moved from Burnley to Everton for a crazy fee? If we were doing the podcast,
like 50 million, I swear.
Yeah. And I think we ridiculed it to the ends of the earth because it was just ridiculous. And Yerry Mina, he's not that. He's not great. Truth be told, I just you're not going to go far with them. Michael Keane actually as well, because he got something in that game. Idiot. There was no need to make that challenge whatsoever. So absolute idiot. But yeah, they got what they deserve. And Lampard, if he now has a failed expected promotion with Derby, sacked by Chelsea, his club, and getting relegated, not being able to save Everton, on his CV, he is in big trouble.
Question of sport. I'll have number 3, please, Sue.
There we go. There we go. I guess we have to speak about Spurs because they absolutely battered Newcastle United 5-1. Oh, flappy hands, Laurie didn't wanted to be star of the show though because he should have saved that free kick, but he let Shaw drive run straight through him. But didn't matter. Ben Davis equalized straight almost on halftime in the 43rd minute, and then after halftime, Conte with the team talk. 48 minutes, Matt Doherty, Human-Son, Emerson, and Steven Bergwijn wrapped it up. Trebles. What's Conte done to this team, man? Because they're playing quite well. I have to admit they're playing quite well right now.
I messaged Kojo straight away. I was like, "You see this Conte ball?" I said it in my chest. When we got him, I was like, I just want to see it. I went to Carabao Cup game against West Ham. I think it was the first game I saw under Conte. And I'm sitting in the South Stand. If you haven't been to our stadium, please take a trip. It's a very nice stadium to go to. And I'm sitting in the South Stand and I'm watching from behind the goal, and you can see the patterns. But we couldn't sustain it, for longer than half an hour at a time. And I think now all the players are buying in. All the players know what they need to do. We finally survived an international break without injuries. Okay? And it sounds silly, but every single international break, at least over the past 3 or 4 breaks, there's a key injury. We lost Romero before Christmas, which is what affects us in the Chelsea games, I think. We had to play Sanchez at the back for 4 or 5 games straight. No one wants to do that. He barely gets 5 minutes. So we have a settled team, settled unit. Everyone's buying into it, even when we're putting players in the wrong position. You've got number 2 who's playing at left wing back yesterday instead of right wing back. We've still got Chicken Royale at right wing back, and the less said about him, the better.
Hey, allow him this weekend, man. He's got a goal this weekend. This weekend, allow him. This weekend, one weekend.
My friends,
1 weekend.
If you want me to come back on this show, do not give him applause. Don't do it. I can't. No, listen. I saw something in the Athletic today. He's a right back playing out of position. He's playing right wing back. He's very limited. Does he have qualities somewhere, somehow? I think we'll upgrade on quite a few of our wing backs, I think, in the summer. But what Conte can do is get a bunch of average players, and some of them are average, to play a lot better. Okay? And he's doing that. We're winning 5 out of 6, and we're winning games against teams that we should beat, quote unquote. If you're going to be serious about trying to get top 4, and now we're putting pressure on, we're funny enough, we are now the shadow to Arsenal, in that sense. And I guess you can always make a joke about that over the past 25 years. But let's see if Arsenal do what they've done over the past 10 years, which is not exactly finished strong. So it's good to just have the opportunity to be in the conversation. Why are you making a face like that?
Not exactly finished strong. Do you see the confidence that Conte brings these man? A little run. And they're talking about Arsenal.
You say that. No. You say that. But literally, the reason why, back in November, when someone asked me, what do you reckon? I said, I feel more confident, not because of our players. We saw that. When they have to play 2 games a week, screw it. They are dead, right? And it might be Conte system, might be fitness, whatever. They just can't do it. Middlesbrough, Burnley, Southampton, all these games that we should have won, we don't win, we flop. But I back Conte. Do you know what I mean? That's the only hope I've got over the next 3 games. He's got Kane playing out of this world. You mentioned all our goal scorers. Kane wasn't on them, and we won 5-1. Kane only got 1 assist. And actually Kane only gave us 45 minutes of the game, really. He wasn't playing that well in the first half. And it's weird because I'm watching it and there's so many things we can improve. But what you can't fault is we're getting goals from across the team now. And that's crucial. We've always been talked about, if you stop Kane, you stop Spurs. And that is still true because he's so crucial in our link-up play. Some of the passes he's been playing over the past month are absolutely out of this world. They're top class. But now we're having other players chip in. Son seems to be, he's getting the goals. Even Bergwijn's coming off the bench, and we saw Bergwijn for Holland in the international break. 3 goals in 2 games or whatever. So the confidence is there in some of our players to do something, and I think they know. And the one thing I kind of hold dear is the fact that some of these players have been in this situation before, where they've got a track down of top 4 space, and they know how to put 4 or 5 games together. I just hope to God we don't get injuries, and I hope to God we just that Hugo Lloris bug that we saw yesterday. You can get that from a Ben Davies, you can get that from a Reguilon, you can get that from other players in our team. So I'm not necessarily over the moon and going, right, this is it, we're back. But it is good to put 5 against Newcastle, especially before they start spending 300 million in every summer and take over Man United. Yeah.
I mean, Steve, let's burst their bubble a bit, because at the very beginning of this season, a certain number 9 wanted out. He was talking about KDB being one of the best passers he's ever seen. Blah 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 blah. Wanting out, but now and he absolutely stunk up the place for about 6 months. Now he's hit a bit of form, scored a few goals here and there, made a few nice passes, and it's Harry Kane FC once again. But I can guarantee you, and I think you might agree with me, he's gonna want out at the end of the season.
It depends. If they get top 4, he might fancy a season. The reality is, if he stays another season, that's probably it, really. And he'll probably stay then for the rest of his career. So he might stay, he might go. I think it's well worth mentioning, second half, I don't know what happened to Newcastle. They just fell off a cliff. They're absolutely dreadful. And you can only beat what's put in front of you. And to be fair to Spurs, they did it well. So new owner bounce for Newcastle is over. And they're fortunate they've accrued enough points to date to not get sucked back into that, because it don't look like a good football inside to me at all at the moment. Alan St. Maximin looks like a headless chicken going down alleyways to nowhere right now. To be honest with you, that would be a worry if you're a Newcastle fan looking at this for next season. You're thinking, okay, what is next season about? Because we had 5 games where we got a load of points and it got us safe, and now we're back doing what we were doing before the changes. Where is their project at? Who takes it to the next level? Is Eddie Howe the man to take it to the next level? There's more questions than answers at Newcastle at the moment, and it's not the same at Spurs. Antonio Conte is a serial winner, and he won't tolerate anything other than serial winners. I think he's tapped into Harry Kane, and there's a meeting of minds with regards to those two, because Harry Kane wants to accomplish things in his football career, and right now he's absolutely on fire. You are right. Brilliant footballer, and a really good game, but they're picking out his passes on the game. Watch the game, they pick out the passes, but the Newcastle players are not even seeing the danger. They're just switched off completely. It's like second half they came out, and it was like you'd want to know what was said in the changing room at half time for a team to switch off like that. Yeah. And if you're the owner of Newcastle, or you're looking at Newcastle's interests, you're looking at that thinking, how can my manager preside over a second half performance like that? They were in the game, and they come out in the second half, and that's arguably one of the worst 45 minutes of any team at any point this season. And the difference between the two teams was ridiculous. But Newcastle conspired to their own downfall, I think, with the way that they came out in the second half. But as I said before, Spurs and Arsenal are looking up at Chelsea, and they genuinely are, and they should be too. So exciting times for you and Trebles in terms of where your club's going. And if they back Conte in the summer, he'll go and take a few more players out of Serie A, like your Bentancurs and your Kulusevski, who really has settled in really well there. He looks a player. I mean, he reminds me of David Ginola in the regards that he's big. He's a big guy, and he's powerful. And the cross for Son's goal looked really easy, but it really wasn't.
Yeah.
So he looks promising. And the ironic thing is he hardly played in Serie A, so he's kind of come in now, and he's taken his opportunity, and he's got a manager that believes in him, and he looks good. He's on loan with an option to buy. He isn't he, on a 2-year deal?
Yeah, we got a few of those.
He looks good. He looks the part.
I love him. We finally have a right winger who can stay on the touchline. Mora always plays central. Obviously, Bale was an expensive mistake. I don't know who else we've even tried out there. It's just been hit and miss, largely. Lamella, oh good lord. Also, oh gosh, this is bringing on PTSD. But it's good to have someone out there who knows his role. He's doing what he's doing, and I think if this was Spurs last year, we draw that game, or we might lose.
Wow.
If I'm honest, it's 1-1 going in, and we're like, half time, and we just go right. We'll try to. We're better than them, so we're going to win, obviously, aren't we? And then they hit us in the break. Obviously, Callum Wilson wasn't playing yesterday, but a player like that gets a winning goal, that kind of thing. Conte doesn't let you do that. And I saw it with Everton when we smashed them. I saw it yesterday with Newcastle, even the West Ham game. He's so relentless with his energy and his drive for perfection. Even at 4-1 up, there was a missed pass, and he's literally crying himself to the ground. So that's infectious. And again, that's what makes average players play above their station. I still want to see some of them sold in the summer, and hopefully they do. But hopefully they get sold as a team, coming from a team who got into the top 4. You never know.
I don't think so. No. You see, that's the funny thing. Is what we say is infectious, because when it's Conte, it's infectious. But when it's Gattuso, it's bullying. But Kojo, we'll continue. I mean, it's Spurs right now, man. They are playing quite well, and Conte is doing his thing. Let's talk about that three-man partnership. Is it, you think, going forward that Spurs that's going to be the three-man partnership going on next season? Because it will be foolish of Spurs, even though we know, and I'm pretty sure Trebles knows, Spurs have the capacity to just not buy him, and that will completely just ruin the entire flow of what they're going for right now.
Yeah, he's not the only one. I think I can't remember if they've made Romero permanent already yet. If they have, that's important. Him, Bentancur, and Kulusevski are huge to this team. I'll say, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Harry Kane could only depend on Son going forward in that partnership, because whoever was on the right side was, quite frankly, inadequate. You couldn't count on them to be in the right place at the right time. You couldn't count on them to make the right runs. You couldn't count on them to do the right things, even 7 times out of 10. They were doing it more 2 out of 10 times. I said it about Bergwijn, I said it about Lucas Moura, I said it about Lamella as well. The kind of players that Kane and Son need in their front three. You need someone of an equal quality, or even if they're lower quality, it has to be slight. And Kulusevski, he's only 21 as well, which is huge. He's only 21, and that's how you can build a future with, because Kane is going to hit 30 in a year or two. Son is 28 now, I believe, 28, 29 as well. So you're talking about players that are in their peak years, but when they hit 30, you as a club need to start thinking about the next stage, because as much as you can use them for the next 3 years, when they hit their 30s, you also need to think about who's next in line, who's going to be that person. But for the meantime, if they're going to have any success going forward, that needs to be the front three. Kulusevski is damn good.
Yeah. Can I just say that our third goal, when he played the little link up with Kane, Kulusevski plays the pass and he turns the wrong way. He turns away from the play and just makes a run. And Kane's like, thank you, because you're right where I need you to be. And it was like, and Conte's system is like this. It is poetry. It's one of the ones, it has to work. It's a machine. Everyone has to be in the right place. People making runs off someone to receive the fourth pass or whatever. It's like that. Kulusevski's come in. He's got 5 assists since he's started playing. Got a couple goals as well. Lovely player. I'm a really big fan. And yeah, we need to make that permanent and just move forward. And then buy another player. A Yotta type. Is it you go out and get a Pedro Neto who can sit on your bench and come in and be a danger? Just go and get top players to beef out our squad depth. Otherwise, we do the same thing we have with Pochettino, where our first 11 can beat anyone on their day. And then you look at the bench, you see Harry Winks, and you start crying.
that's why I was saying, Kulusevski with Bentancur, with Romero, the key signings, they're crucial signings. Exactly, it's a spine, exactly. And then now you think about the next stage, obviously the loan of the goalkeeper from Atalanta, remind me of his name. Golini. That hasn't worked out. So, you're looking at, okay, you know what? Hugo Lloris still needs to be replaced because he's not going to be the keeper for the next 10 years. So who's going to be the next one we can look and see to bring
I hope
in?
he is.
I know Hugo is.
I hope he is.
But who can we bring in next to be the next man in that goal? That will work with that spine as well. If we can keep those guys, we've got a spine ready. It's beautiful to have a goalkeeper, a defender that you can rely on, a midfielder you can rely on, and then you got your front three sorted. Because then you put the pieces around them and you build that. That's what I think Conte is looking to do. Conte's always needed that kind of thing. He always played a front three, but he's also got his wing backs that did the job for him. He's got his defenders that did the job for him, and his midfielders are workhorses with that quality as well. So this is where I'm gonna say it's always a maybe, because with Pochettino, again, as he alluded it to, if you have success on some level somewhere and your manager's ready to build to the next step, you cannot hold him back. You cannot do that. And if Conte is going to stay and do something in the summer to build this team, if he's getting results and somehow getting Doherty and Davis to contribute to the score sheet, and Emerson Royale now for the first time contributing to the score sheet as well, then you got to let him continue to build something. So let's see what they can do, man. But it was a good result, 5-1. Kane's passing quality, absolutely right. The defending was poor, but you still have to execute it. And man, his quality he's outstanding, man. He's an outstanding footballer. He needs an accolade more than anybody in that team, because otherwise,
agreed.
He's gonna be known as the player that scored a lot of goals, but it came to nothing. Basically, footballing Ranić.
I think we'll wrap it up there. That's a great way to wrap it up. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for joining us. But we're gonna end with you guys. Where can they find you, Steve?
Mostly on Red Men TV for Liverpool stuff. Still doing that, which is really cool. In the studio with the cameras. It's not a podcast. It's like I do a podcast, but it's TV shows. And then doing ad hoc things like this, which is always a pleasure. And I had a look at your followers today as a Twitter account. I can't believe you guys don't have more followers. So anyone stumbling across this, I say this every time I come on, give these guys a follow. Go and find their YouTube channel, give that a follow, subscribe to that, because I come on here for a reason, because we've a good chat about football with good people, and it's hard to find these days. So kudos to you guys for doing a really good job, and it's always really enjoyable coming on. So thanks again for having me, and for God's sake, people, get following these two.
Treble, where can they find you, sir?
Yeah, I'm pretty much living on Twitter with the football takes there. At Trebles, I'm also part of the Touchline Flacker community with the Touchline Hotspurs, aka New Spurs Order. We're doing our best to spread the truth about Spurs, and we're brutally honest, and sometimes to the point I wonder if we will ever be let back into the stadium. But yeah, that's where we're at. We record on Thursdays, drop on Saturdays, and you can find us on all the usual platforms and across social media. But I agree with Steve. I don't text many people saying, yo, I got something to say. But Kojo and your team, I love coming here on the Mondays just to chop it up with real football people. So yeah, man, get following, guys, support the movement.
Kojo, where can they find us?
Before we go, appreciate that, you guys. Really much. Their links are below as well in the bio. And lastly as well, positive vibes, wishes and love to Louis Van Gaal, all the support for his fight against prostate cancer. Which I hope he pulls through. And yes, you can find us here on YouTube for Midfield Podcast. On the audio is Free Midfield, the number 3 in Midfield, that is, and your social media as well, which is obviously your Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, and Instagram. Free Midfield. The audio, was Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcast. That's Free Midfield.
This has been another episode of the Match Report. Good night.